Well, folks, it's Jason on the Simpademic. I guess I can't help myself right now. A lot of things that I've come up here with, well, in a combination of writing the End of the Simpademic book and then also just some of the other things I've posted here lately that I just want to expand on a little bit here. But on top of that, I also want, for men out there who may be um, struggling with women and dating and things like that, there are three content creators I personally wanted to take time out to recommend to you. They're each good in their own way, and they're each solution oriented in this particular regard. Most of your faceless and even faced black pill channels are not this way. They are out there to validate your pity, and they're out there to, um, through a very sneaky way, promote misogyny. And so, I mean, if you've watched this channel for any period of time, you know what I feel about these channels, and they are very harmful, very potent. I'm going to expand on this a little bit later on at the back end of this video, but going back to the women who are channel creators who I wanted to endorse and recommend for you, and if you're looking for advice on a particular subject, you want it from people who have done it before and who have succeeded in doing so. And I did this in 1998, believe it or not in relationships, but in softball. I had just joined the company softball team. I was the right center fielder. And in 1998, YouTube wasn't really a thing yet, and so there wasn't a place I could look for videos on that. But there were different corners. We had this newfangled web browser that was installed on our mainframes that were called Netscape. And so I went out there and searched, and Yahoo and Google were a thing at that time. So it was easy to find video on outfielders and how they made their throws, because my throws from the outfield, my relay throws, were coming up a bit short. And so I found this insane guy from Japan who would be arriving in America the next year by the name of Ichiro Suzuki. And if you've watched any baseball, particularly any of his outfield throws in his time as a member of the Seattle Mariners, he could launch balls like a rocket. And then you look at the guy and he's like, maybe 5'10" and maybe 160 pounds on Thanksgiving, after Thanksgiving dinner? How does this guy get so much power on his throws? How is he able to gun guys down at the plate? Well, I broke down the video that I had, what I could get at the time, and figured it out by breaking it down piece by piece. So I was getting my advice, getting my direction from somebody who was successfully doing it, throwing guys out at the plate from deep right field, or getting them on the base pads on the fly, no cutoff man. I saw him make one insane throw all the way to third base from right field. Must have gotten the runner by about 5 feet. But how he did it was the core is the instrumental part with an outfield throw. And you have to utilize your core. And you're making that turn with your hip into the direction that you want to throw. You're starting sideways, and you're kind of using your torque in your core. Your arm is just coming along for the ride. And it's at a 3/4 arm slot, which is kind of up, and I guess, I don't know if I can show it to you in here, but it's kind of like this. It's not completely overhead, and it's definitely not sidearm. 3/4 arm slot. Using your core muscles and your core around your abdomen, for those that are not familiar with the term. And this is how he generated such immense power on his throws. It wasn't because he had physically a muscular arm. He didn't. Still doesn't. But he would just make some of the most insane throws. And I broke this film down put it in my game, and all of a sudden, last 22 games of the season, I threw out 15 runners. And this is, of course, being a co-ed softball league, in a lot of slow pitch softball leagues, runners will run until you throw them out. I call them jackrabbits on crack. I said, these guys are running like jackrabbits on crack. Well, they stopped running like jackrabbits on crack as soon as, we had a 4-player outfield, and as soon as we started racking up outfield assists like crazy between three of us, and pretty soon nobody was running on the Navtech Explorers for much longer, because we were making them pay for their over-aggression. And as I said, running like jackrabbits on crack. So back to my suggestions. If you want suggestions on how to succeed in something, you want to find people who have done it, who are successful at it. And these 3 women fit that category spectacularly. You're not going to get advice like this from any Black Pill Manosphere channel. You're not going to get it from Andrew Tate. You're not going to get it from Kevin Samuels. You're not going to get it from any of those people. And I've mentioned 2 of these women. One of them is a Canadian by the name of Anna Jorgensen. She's absolutely swell, and as I've been able to glean, she's in a relationship herself, which qualifies her. She's been in some long-term ones too, and so she's the first one. I also mentioned Billy Ray Brandt. She's engaged now, by the way, and the third one who I've not mentioned here before, but who you may have heard of before, her name is Courtney Ryan. She's married herself. A channel on YouTube is under the name Courtney Christine Ryan. And her takes on how women approach relationships and how they seek things is really on the money. So guys, if you're out there, looking for a women's point of view that is not going to be black-pilled, not going to be, manosphered, certainly don't go to any of the black pill faceless channels that I have talked about. And I've actually tried to research those channels, and there isn't much out there on them, which is the worst part of all. But those 3 female content creators, relationship creators, come with my stamp of approval. And I tried to ask, in my previous video, for both Billy Ray and Anna, what they think about women who post outrageous content and outrageous statements on YouTube and TikTok, and what they thought. Anna actually replied to me on a different thread on her channel. And Anna says, yes, you're right. A lot of these women do post on these channels to fuel rage and go viral that way, because I think we all know right now, outrageous is what goes viral. Outrageous is what gets attention. Outrageous is what gets validation. These women do not give 2 craps about their overall effect on the dating scene. They just don't care. It's all about clout and money for them. That's the only reason why they do it. However, by doing it, they create material for these Black Pill Manosphere channels to use as material to rage bait men into MGTOW. I know, it almost worked on me. I went through a period not too long ago where I got kicked out of a gym simply because they objected to some of my social media content. And the discussion started with my channels. And I actually had personally endorsed them in their chain, unofficially, uncompensated, but they took exception anyway. I've also been falsely accused, approaching a woman at a church, even though I took great care to not. I certainly didn't do it in any type of back corner. It was a very busy foyer. And she was a fellow volunteer, so it wasn't like I was coming up to her for the first time. And yet I find out later on, after she told me she had a boyfriend, which I didn't know at the time, is really a throwaway line that women use to reject men. But that isn't even the worst part. What happened after that, of course, was that she quietly went to the church staff and reported me for false SA charges. These are situations that, again, they happen, but they are not all women. I would venture that they're probably a small minority, but a lot of them do this because they believe that they are entitled to be approached by perfect 10 men, the Chads and the Tyrones of the world. They believe that they are entitled to that, and if a man of average appearance and means, such as myself, approaches them, they actually take offense. They actually find it insulting. And so these situations are very real, and unfortunately, it gives an opening for the Black Pill Manosphere channels to get a door open and get vulnerable men such as myself to listen to them. And they promote their anti-female ideologies. Now, I do agree to an extent that some feminism has gone a little bit too far. But it doesn't give the right to be misogynistic or really lumping all women into the same category, because I also know from experience that that's not true. I've been asked, "Oh, well, you've got women for friends," and I was like, "Well, yeah, I do." And they're like, "Well, that's impossible. How do you do that without because all women want are money and resources." And I've said it before on this channel. The important distinction is that, if you're going to have an honest friendship with women, first of all, you don't go behind their man's back. That's number one. If they want to meet you alone somewhere and go behind their man's back, that's a no-go. That's a boundary that you got to set. You can't be in the business of breaking up somebody's relationship. The other thing is that there should be a relating factor that you share that has nothing to do with romance or love. And of course, most of you know that I've been a recreational poker player at times. I know a lot of people in that community. For a lot of those women, that is the unifying factor. One of them in New Jersey actually just got engaged, so congratulations to her. But poker is the unifying factor on that one. I would never, ever, ever have given any consideration to pursuing her romantically or even traveling to New Jersey. Another one is in Oklahoma. She's a real estate agent. She used to work for a very famous real estate agent here in the Twin Cities. But again, we've never met in person. We certainly haven't met behind the back. And I am very sure to be very heavily complimentary of her husband. I would actually love to meet him someday. If I ever go down to Oklahoma to meet them, I'm going to make sure it's them together, because first of all, I like to meet them both together. And the unifying factor in that case is that I've actually reached out to her before for potential real estate services, and sometime in the future, as I build my career, I want to be able to buy a house. And I think she would be my agent. She kept a real estate license in Minnesota. And so that is our unifying, factor. Completely professional, completely on board, completely clean. I've never had any sort of attraction or any of that type of thing towards her. But that is... So anyway, that's a lot to have unpacked here in one episode. Again, I'm still writing my book, but so many things are coming at me that I have to add to the book. And again, I'm going to also finish this off with some channels I do not recommend. Black Pill Manosphere channels that I've always said they don't identify themselves. They hide behind the faceless model. We have no idea who they are. At least with the Andrew Tates and the Dan Bilzerians of the world, at least you know who they are. They can be, I wouldn't say held accountable, but you can challenge them because you know who they are. And the challenge they have been, I'm sure they've taken tons of criticism. I'm also, speaking of poker, very critical of Bilzerian as a poker player. He says that he's made over $30 or $40 million in poker, which is a flat-out lie. And he objectifies women all the time, which actually makes him double poisonous. There's no way he's made this much money because they've even broken down poker tape with him, on YouTube and poker shows and things like shows like No Gamble, No Future. I've broken his game down personally. There's no way this guy has made $30 or $40 million. Maybe he's been a luck box on occasion, and maybe been able to score a big pot or two occasionally, but the pros have him read like a book. I've watched it. And so, but anyway, back to the Manosphere stuff. Bilzerian and Tate, you can at least call them out. They have been called out millions of times. But the Black Pill Faceless channels, you don't know who they are. The only people who know who they are is YouTube themselves, because the checks have to go to somebody. So these channels are named Manhood, Cosmic Verse, The Wall, Men Only. I can go on and on. But those are the primary ones I think of. And I even tried to do some research, Googling them. There's scarcely little out there, which is in turn very scary. That our children could be subject, our boys could be subject to these channels. And if you're a parent, you have no idea who they are. We have no idea who they are either. I only can name them because I've watched their content and I've been drawn in by them because of the situations I've explained earlier. So those are your dangerous channels. Those are the ones I don't recommend. I do highly recommend Anna, Billy Ray, and Courtney Ryan, because those are women who are looking to solve the problems. They give very constructive advice, and they acknowledge, as Anna did for me, they acknowledge the black pill content that's out there. They acknowledge the women who are making outrageous statements on social media for the sole purpose of clout and money, with no regard for their impact on society, which is obviously clearly negative, because their material is used and AI harvested and AI narrated by those black pill channels I mentioned earlier. Excuse me. So I will link those 3 channels below in the description and in the title. Give them a look. Give them a sub, please. They truly deserve it. They're very generous, very caring, and in the case of Anna, particularly responsive. Anna's channel is called Your Wingman, and her segments are called Just the Tip. Obviously, clever wordplay on both fronts as it relates to her content. But social media can be full of absolute garbage and very misogynistic and hateful content. But these 3 ladies, go out there and check out for yourselves. They're the ones who put the gold out there. Gold can be very hard to find, but when you find it, it's so rewarding. So give them a look. Chasing the End of the Simpademic. And yes, Simpademic, simp, by the way, is a kind of a slang term. I've been called out for it recently. But all three of the content providers that I have named also use the term. It's not a flattering term. It's men that are weak, that are so they reek of desperation. I'm going to leave it at that. Give those three ladies a look. It's Chasing the End of the Simpademic. I'm still writing that book. And I want men to reclaim their dignity and be real men. As I say in one point in my book, false allegations wouldn't mean anything if it wasn't for the fact that there were real creeps out there. Unfortunately, there are. So I'm signing off right now. I'm going to leave this here before I burn my entire afternoon off. Talking to you guys. Peace out, homies. I'll be off and on intermittently as this book gets put together and as new things get thrown at me. This is a fast-changing world. The target of the book hasn't changed, but the path has a little bit. But in a fast-moving world, that's to be expected. So anyway, you guys, peace out, homies.